Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you with an old school review. Today we are going over X-Men number 4. The print date on this was January 1992, and I love this cover. Just as a quick spoiler before we even get into this is the first appearance of Omega Red. And just off the bat, I love this kind of semi-Dutch angle shot with Omega's hand kind of sweeping out with all his tentacles flying into the way, and then the X-Men just in the foreground because the book is X-Men, so the people on the title have to be awesome, and that's just a great composition overall. Now, with that said, let's jump into it. And a little tidbit of information here. The X-Men, the animated series, adapted this comic book. I believe this was 4 and 5. I can't remember if the entire arc was 4, 5, and 6, but I think it was just 4 and 5. Anyway, it was the season 2, episode 4 episode of Red Dawn where they introduced Omega Red into the cartoon, but they used Colossus and Jubilee in that issue, and then the X-Men came along later. Now, oh man, the artwork in this is so great, and we'll get into that in a second. But I like how they do kind of an establishing shot, medium shot, close-up, and you just kind of just see Omega's hands, and I like how, or hands, face, and I like how these hands come down like a sea gathering. It says a laying on of hands. In many cultures, a ritual connected with the gentle process of healing. And then just complete juxtaposition of what the writer's saying. There is nothing gentle in what here unfolds. 20 men die in many seconds. And is their fate any less horrible than it was by their own choosing? And then the people bringing Omega Red back to life scientifically, it says 5 men die. Suddenly, horribly, and not at all by their own choosing. So I love the use of the yellows and the purples and the reds to just show the pain and just nothing gentle about what's going on with this resurrection process. And this is where we get our first look at Omega Red. And I like how the smoke's just going and he's standing there. Great perspective shot of him just kind of shooting up at him and him looking down. Who has summoned Omega Red? And the whole reason they brought him back is because of poor Logan cannot seem to catch a break. Now, with that said, the people working on this comic book, The Resurrection in the Flesh, it is Jim Lee and John Byrne doing the writing. Pencils by Jim Lee. Colors, I believe it was Joe Rosas, ink Scott Williams, and letter was Tom Orzganowski. And then, of course, Bob Harris and Tom DeFalco. So, all-star cast on this book. And I love how you just see Omega Red's eyes squinting. He goes, Logan. And the screaming again happens, and it says, the echoes fade quickly in the chamber of death. But the fury burns undismissed, as almost as far away as the curvature of the world will allow. In Westchester County, New York, the focus of that fury is considerably less than happy. And I just always loved the way that Adam Kubert and Andy Kubert and Jim Lee always drew Wolverine. That's how I always known him from when I was younger. Now, what I appreciate, excuse me, not enough coffee, and I'm just really excited about this book. I like that Byrne and Lee kept the tradition of Chris Claremont. So the first 3 issues of this book was this epic battle in space on Asteroid M with both the blue and gold team going up against Magneto. And it revolves around Moira Mctaggart, which we'll get into in a moment. But after any big event, when Claremont was on the Uncanny title, there would always be like a softball issue to kind of wind down, give the readers a chance to breathe, and start adding little seeds for what's to come. So in this sense, this isn't a softball issue, it's a basketball issue, which is fine. 90s, it was more of the thing. But I love the way the camaraderie here. So even though, we have these stakes rising and we're given a moment to breathe with the X-Men, it's the hottest-headed members of the group. So we have Rogue and Logan going up against Jubilee and Gambit. And so they're, playfully picking, Gambit doing a slam dunk. And I just love these panels here where you see Gambit running, dodging Logan, and still, while he's falling, able to shoot the shot. But here, Rogue's saying no powers, because she's saying one of Gambit's powers is natural agility. So, Rogue uses her power. She's flying, uses her strength. Jubilee uses her lights, and she's like, hey, no fair. I may not love Mr. Charming here, but that was too hard. And so the basketball game's kind of turned into a free-for-all. And I like here, as Rogue says she's not cheats, but the gloves are off now, eh? Any agreement not to use their powers is null and void, no? And my powers can make this game real interesting. And I like how Jubilee just puts her glasses on in the background because she's just like, uh-oh. And I love the dark reds here to just show that there's no more playing around. Now, we jump from that to Moira Mctaggart. We see her with her son, Kevin. And then all of a sudden he falls. But as he falls and she's trying to grab him, it segues into Magneto. And so if you want to know more about Proteus, which is Kevin Mctaggart, I would suggest reading Uncanny X-Men 125. That's when he was first introduced. Now, before I flip the page, one thing I want to ask you guys. This here, has anybody else noticed this on their book? Like at first I thought the page was torn, but I think that's how it came off the printer. I mean, look at that. Has anybody else seen a number 4 with that kind of tear on it? Because it doesn't match any of the book. Like when I close the cover, see how it hangs out like a bookmark? So I've never seen that before, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm kind of hoping that's like one of those unique flukes. But anyway, in modern comic books, this is obviously a dream from Moira Mctaggart's having, but how often in modern comics do you see absolutely gorgeous paneling like this where Moira's screaming, we got these blues and purples going on, we get that Kirby crackle going on in the background. I just do not see this anymore in these new comic books. It's been a long time since you've seen these nice surreal panels like that. So with the build up to Omega Red and also trying to do a cooldown, we're kind of getting this, I guess that'd be A, B, this would be kind of like a C side of the story where Moira is having PTSD and with what she was responsible for in the first 3 issues of this book with Magneto. I don't want to get into it. It makes sense when you read it, but I don't want to spoil it because I want you guys to go back and get this whole run. Like I finally went back and got all 112 issues of this X-Men run because the first early part, of course, was amazing. The latter half was hit and miss, but I still wanted it for completion because that's just how I am. But anyway, you just really don't see a lot of characters this vulnerable anymore. Moira's having some really hardcore PTSD about it. But, she's the time that you need time to heal. And she's like, perhaps I can. So while you're having kind of this tension and drama going on, boom! Tension breaker. Enter Rogue. Gambit, you energized the ball, you dirty, rotten son of a... And Moira snaps. So it kind of helps that tension bubble just kind of pop. So sadly, Rogue was kind of used as the comedy relief there. So Sean goes after her because her and Sean Cassidy are in a relationship. We get a moment with the villains, why they've resurrected Omega Red, which I don't want to give away. There's a real funny moment between Rogue and Gambit. Again, I don't want to give away. But what I like here is Jubilee's talking about how your team didn't have a chance, Wolvie. Yeah, I guess you're right, Jubilation. Against hot shots like you and the Cajun, an old-timer like me just doesn't have a hope. So over the shoulder, one-headed shot. And again, that's one thing I've always liked about Logan is he's always been kind of like the father figure to the newer members. So like Jubilee, Kitty, and Rogue all kind of looked up to him as a father figure, and he was there for every single one of them and always has a lesson to teach them. So I like how he's just very nonchalant. And he just kind of looks over his shoulder, kind of smug, but not rubbing it in. And he goes, "Sides, I need more motivation." Like maybe a case of brew at stake. I know I keep saying this, but you do not see this in modern books anymore. You don't see these type of relationships. And so we'll get into more on that in a moment. Let's put a pin in it, but just keep that in your head while you're thinking about the more modern Dawn of X books versus this one self-issue. Again, in modern books, you don't see heroes having vulnerable moments like this anymore. You don't see like Tony Stark looking in the mirror feeling, I think it was that issue called Demon in a Bottle where he's fighting his alcoholism. You don't see this vulnerableness that makes you connect with the character. And you see Moira so torn up. And the team saying, "It's okay, we understand." But she's not forgiving herself. She's like, "It's all my fault. Can't you see that? How can I ever look at myself again? Or look at any of you? Can't you understand?" Without being reminded. So you see the anguish in Moira's face. Now, Rogue and Gambit are supposed to allegedly go on a date. And even though she has to cover herself because of her powers, she still has like this nice like Southern Belle look going on. It's very charming, very nice looking. But Gambit gets surprised because everybody's talking about how, like Jubilee's like, "You're lucky if he's going to take you to a Taco Bell." And Logan's just like, "Which is why Jubilation and me have decided to tag along. Make sure the boy treats you right." Tag? Oh, your sentiments are trace touching, Logan. But there is room for only two on my back. Enter the beast. Then it's serendipitous I had heard about your impending gastronomic ventures, and decided to avail myself not only of your charming company, but also this most capacious Jeep. And so Gambit's just like, "I thought I'd join the X-Men, not the Brady Bunch. There's some things I prefer not to do in a group." But you can see he's actually not mad. He's actually smiling because he knows he has a family, that this isn't just a team that gets together and goes on missions. This is a family that loves each other. Now again, we're going to take that pen out and talk about camaraderie. Think again to Dawn of X. You don't see this relationship anymore without it seeming spiteful or ironic or just everybody seeming sort of standoffish. This is true, just hits you in the feels type emotions. But again, all that feel good doesn't last for long because we got to get back into the action, and it's such a great segue, I don't want to give it away. But I just love how everyone's like, the X-Men just seem to go down too easy. He says, they fell somewhat short of their reputation. And Beast's like, then it must be a reputation of extraordinary magnitude, my friend. Inasmuch we are also short of beaten. And Logan's just not having it. He goes, "Stow it, Beast. Take him down. Now." And so just the action. Oh, man. This fight sequence that happens. Heck yeah. The stuff of legends that made this comic series one of the hottest books of the 90s. I remember when this came out, and everybody on the schoolyard talked about it. Trading cards, the cartoon. Then you had X-Force, X-Factor. Oh, man. I wish for a lot of the, people that were born in the 2000s and the late 90s, I wish you could have been there when this stuff was just the bee's knees. Oh, it was definitely a time to be an X fan, especially you go to like the Pizza Hut and there'd be X-Men cutouts, X-Men cups, Spider-Man stuff. Heck yeah, it was the apex of my childhood. Anyway, with that said, if you guys have enjoyed this comic book, please check with your local comic shop first and foremost and see if they have a copy. I've seen that this book is starting to go up in price because it is the first appearance of Omega Red. So if you've seen it for cheap, I would suggest jumping on it ASAP. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys can get notified. Come to the channel, and we love chatting with y'all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I will make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.